Your perfume is dying on you. And the worst part is the people selling it to you know exactly why. There's a $4 product sitting on the bottom shelf of almost every drugstore in America. The kind of thing your grandmother probably had in her bathroom cabinet. When you layer it under any fragrance, cheap or expensive, designer or department store, it can extend the life of that scent by close to 90%. That's not a marketing slogan. That's not a TikTok exaggeration. That's a trick that perfumers have quietly known about for decades. The reason you've never heard a single fragrance counter employee mention it is because the entire economic model of the perfume industry depends on you running out. Reapplication is revenue. If your bottle of cologne lasts you 18 months instead of 6, that's 2 bottles they didn't sell you. Multiply that by every customer in every Macy's, Sephora, and Ulta in the country. You start to understand why this little $4 fix has stayed buried under glossy ad campaigns and influencer hauls. Tonight I'm going to tell you exactly what it is, why it works on a chemical level, how to use it correctly, which fragrances it works best with, and which common mistakes are quietly canceling out everything you're doing. Before we get there, I'm going to walk you through some uncomfortable truths about why your expensive bottle of Sauvage L'Eau de Chanel evaporates off your skin in 2 hours, while your friend, who spent $8 at Walmart, still smells incredible at midnight. Let's start with the part the industry doesn't put on the box. Fragrance longevity has almost nothing to do with price. It has to do with 3 things: the concentration of aromatic compounds, the structure of the notes in the pyramid, and what's sitting underneath the fragrance when you spray it. That third one is the secret that gets buried. A perfume isn't a liquid that stays on your skin forever. It's a volatile mixture of alcohol, water, and aromatic molecules. The moment that spray hits your skin, the alcohol begins evaporating, carrying those aromatic molecules into the air around you. That's what you smell. That's also why your scent disappears. Dry skin, the kind most adults have without even realizing it, has microscopic cracks and an uneven lipid barrier. Those aromatic molecules have nothing to cling to. They evaporate faster, they diffuse outward in a burst, and then they're gone. Oily or well-moisturized skin, on the other hand, gives those molecules something to bind to. The oils slow down evaporation. The fragrance releases gradually instead of all at once. This isn't a theory. Perfumers have been writing about this in trade journals since the 1970s. You'll find the same advice repeated across Fragrantica reviews, base notes threads, and every serious subreddit dedicated to fragrance. The single most consistent piece of advice from people who actually wear and review perfume for a living is the same: moisturize first, then spray. The $4 product I'm talking about is the cheapest, most effective moisturizer you can buy for this exact purpose. It's unscented Vaseline, plain petroleum jelly, the little blue tub, $4 at any CVS, Walgreens, Walmart, or Dollar General in America, and in some stores even cheaper. Before you roll your eyes and click away, hear me out, because the reason this works is rooted in actual chemistry, not folk wisdom. Petroleum jelly is an occlusive. That means it forms a thin, semi-sealed barrier on the surface of the skin that dramatically slows water loss. More importantly, for our purposes, it dramatically slows the evaporation of anything sitting on top of it. When you spray fragrance onto bare, dry skin, the alcohol flashes off in seconds and the aromatic molecules go with it. When you spray fragrance onto a thin layer of petroleum jelly, those same aromatic molecules get trapped in and on top of that occlusive layer. They release slowly, over hours instead of minutes. The top notes still bloom the way they're supposed to. The heart notes unfold gradually. The base notes, the woods, the musks, the ambers, the things that make a fragrance recognizable from across a room, hang on your skin for hours longer than they would on their own. Fragrance reviewers on YouTube have been testing this trick for years. The consensus across blind tests is that a fragrance applied over a thin layer of petroleum jelly lasts roughly 70% to 90% longer than the same fragrance applied to bare skin. Some users report even more dramatic differences with lighter eau de toilette concentrations, which are notorious for fading fast. If you want to know which cheap drugstore fragrances become absolute powerhouses when you layer them this way, the kind of bottles that quietly outperform colognes 10 times their price, stick with me. I'm going to name them later in this video. Hit that subscribe button. You don't miss the one at the end that fragrance fans on Reddit have been calling the best kept secret in American drugstores. Drop a comment and tell me which perfume or cologne dies on your skin the fastest. I want to know which expensive bottle let you down, because I guarantee you're not alone. Now let's get into the part where the industry really doesn't want you paying attention. The reason this trick is so rarely mentioned at fragrance counters isn't because it's a secret in the cloak and dagger sense. It's because the entire structure of the modern fragrance market is built around frequent purchase. Look at how perfume is sold. Tiny bottles, 50 milliliters, 100 milliliters at the most for mainstream releases. High prices per milliliter compared to almost any other personal care product. Constant new launches, flankers, limited editions, celebrity collaborations, all designed to keep you cycling through bottles. If the average customer learned that a $4 tub of petroleum jelly could double the wear time of their existing bottle, the math of the industry changes overnight. A bottle that used to get used up in 4 months now lasts 8. That's a 50% drop in repurchase frequency. For an industry that, according to market research from firms like Statista and Euromonitor, generates over $50 billion globally each year, that's not a small problem. So the advice you get at the counter is always about buying more, never about making what you have last longer. Spray more. Layer the matching body lotion, which conveniently costs another $40. Buy the hair mist, buy the deodorant, buy the candle, everything except the $4 fix that would actually solve your problem. I want to be honest with you because in this niche, credibility is everything. There are a lot of fragrance tricks floating around the internet that don't hold up. Let me knock down the biggest ones before we go further. The first myth: rubbing your wrists together after spraying breaks the fragrance. You've heard this 1,000 times. The truth is more nuanced. Rubbing doesn't chemically destroy the molecules. The friction and the warmth do accelerate the evaporation of the top notes slightly, so you might lose a few seconds of the initial citrus or aldehyde burst, but it does not ruin the fragrance. It does not change the dry down. Perfumers like Roja Dove and writers at Now Smell This and Bois de Jasmine have debunked this one repeatedly. So if you've been carefully holding your wrists apart like a surgeon for 20 years, you can relax. The second myth: more sprays equals more longevity. Past a certain point, this is false. There's a saturation level on skin and clothing, beyond which additional spraying just creates a cloud that overwhelms the people around you without actually extending wear time. 3 to 5 sprays placed strategically beats 10 sprays dumped on your chest. The third myth: storing perfume in the fridge makes it last longer on your skin. Cold storage helps the bottle last longer on the shelf, especially if you live somewhere hot. But it has zero effect on how long the fragrance lasts once it's on you. The fourth myth: the idea that expensive automatically means longer lasting. It doesn't. Some of the longest performing fragrances on the market right now are under $30. Some of the shortest performing are over $300. Concentration, formulation, and base note structure matter far more than the price tag on the box. Which brings us back to the $4 trick, because here's where it gets interesting. The petroleum jelly method doesn't just extend wear time. It actually rescues fragrances that have been weakened by reformulation. If you've been wearing perfume for more than 15 or 20 years, you've almost certainly experienced reformulation without knowing it. Here's what happened. The International Fragrance Association, known as IFRA, sets safety standards for perfume ingredients globally. Over the last 25 years, IFRA has progressively restricted or banned dozens of ingredients that used to define classic fragrances. Oak moss, the foundation of nearly every great chypre from the 1970s and 80s, has been heavily restricted because of allergen concerns. Real animal musks were phased out decades ago. Certain forms of bergamot, lavender, jasmine absolute, and tree mosses have all been capped at much lower concentrations than perfumers used to work with. The result is that fragrances you remember from the 80s and 90s, the ones your mother wore, the ones your father splashed on before going out, have been quietly reformulated again and again. The names on the bottles are the same, the juice inside is not. Vintage formulations of Chanel No. 5, Guerlain Shalimar, Yves Saint Laurent Opium, Door Poison, Calvin Klein Obsession, and dozens of other classics perform dramatically differently than the versions sold today. Modern reformulations often have thinner base notes, weaker projection, and shorter longevity. This isn't a conspiracy theory. It's documented in IFRA's own published standards and discussed openly in fragrance industry publications. The reason your husband's old cologne doesn't smell the way it used to isn't your nose, it's the formula. This is where the $4 trick becomes more than just a longevity hack. It becomes a way to compensate for what regulation has taken away. By creating that occlusive barrier on your skin, you're giving the weakened base notes of modern reformulations something to hold on to. You're slowing the evaporation of the molecules that the new formulas have in lower concentrations. You're essentially restoring some of the wear time that the original formulations used to have built in. Fragrance enthusiasts on Bassanotes have been documenting this for years. Comparing wear times of vintage versus modern bottles of the same fragrance with and without an occlusive base, the pattern is consistent. The petroleum jelly trick brings modern reformulations significantly closer to the performance of their vintage counterparts. Now let me tell you how to actually do this, because there are a few mistakes that will cancel out the entire effect. First, the layer of petroleum jelly should be thin, not greasy, not visible, just enough that the skin feels lightly conditioned but not slick. A pea-sized amount is enough for 1 pulse point. Rub it in gently, wait about 30 seconds for it to settle into the skin, then spray your fragrance directly onto that area from about 6 to 8 inches away. Don't rub, don't dab. Let it dry naturally. Apply to the spots where your skin is warmest and where pulse points generate heat that diffuses scent throughout the day. The inside of the wrists, the base of the neck just below the jawline, behind the ears, the inner elbows, and for stronger projection, the center of the chest. Avoid the back of the neck if you're going to be in the sun, because some fragrance ingredients are photosensitive and can cause skin discoloration, though that's true with or without the petroleum jelly. The second mistake people make is using a scented lotion underneath. Don't. The scent of the lotion will clash with the fragrance and create something neither of you intended. Unscented petroleum jelly is the gold standard precisely because it adds nothing of its own to the scent profile. The third mistake is spraying on clothes instead of skin when using this method. The trick works because the occlusive layer is on you. Spraying on fabric is fine for some purposes, but it bypasses the entire mechanism we're discussing. So which fragrances benefit most from this technique? The ones with the most to gain are the lighter, brighter, fresher scents that are notoriously short-lived. Citrus colognes, aquatic fragrances, light florals, anything in an eau de cologne or eau de toilette concentration. These are the categories where you'll see the most dramatic difference, sometimes the difference between a fragrance lasting 2 hours and lasting 8. Heavier orientals, ambers, and ouds already have powerful base notes and long natural wear times, so the percentage gain is smaller, though still noticeable. Here's where the drugstore secret really opens up. There are several inexpensive fragrances available right now in American pharmacies and big box stores that, when layered with petroleum jelly underneath, become genuinely competitive with designer bottles costing 10 to 20 times more. Coty's classic Jovan Musk, which has been sold for under $15 for decades, becomes a deep, lasting skin scent with this method. Old Spice's original cologne, the actual cologne, not the body spray, layers beautifully and lasts all day. Brut, which your father almost certainly wore at some point, performs better than half the niche bottles being sold for $200 at boutique counters. Coty Vanilla Fields, Jean Naté, Skin Musk, Aqua Velva, English Leather, and a handful of other genuine American drugstore classics all transform under this technique. The one that fragrance forums consistently rank as the most underrated, the one that perfumers themselves have admitted. Off the Record performs almost identically to fragrances costing $300 or more is the original Coty Wild Musk, $5 on a good day. Layered over petroleum jelly, it lasts 12 hours easily. Projects in a way that has had people stopping strangers in grocery stores to ask what they're wearing for over 40 years. Here's where we land. The $4 trick is real. It's chemically sound, it's been quietly used by perfumers, fragrance enthusiasts for decades, and it works on essentially any fragrance you already own. It won't turn a bad perfume into a good one, but it will make every bottle in your collection perform the way you always wished it would. It will absolutely save you hundreds of dollars a year in repurchases you no longer need to make. The next time someone at a fragrance counter tries to sell you the matching $200 body lotion to make your perfume last longer, you can smile politely and walk past them to the pharmacy aisle. Before you go, do me one favor. Tell me in the comments which drugstore fragrance you want me to break down next. I'm putting together a deep dive on the cheap American classics that quietly outperform the luxury counters, including the reformulation history of each one and exactly how to wear them so they project the way the originals did in 1978. Drop the name of the bottle you want investigated, and if enough of you ask for the same one, that's the next video. If you found out something tonight that you didn't know an hour ago, you already know what to do. Stick around. The next secret is bigger than this one.